Hi, everybody. Welcome back. This is part two of The Lord is My Shepherd. We were cut off there because my iPad suddenly was full. The storage was full and the recording ended. And so I'm back. And we have a little bit further to go in the message today. We were talking about the importance of having our hearts purged from fear. And the reason being is that fear is the main thing that sabotages our relationships. We've been using the example of boundaries, and it's a very simple picture that it forms, and there's various boundary violations that we allow or we are engaged in, and each boundary violation is outside of the will of God. It allows a corruption to happen in our soul, in our relationships. It may be just a little bit at a time, but each boundary violation corrodes or causes some aspect of some relationship to crumble a little bit. Maybe all does not go wrong overnight, but it's going in the wrong direction. And the thing that more than anything else that causes these various boundary violations to happen is fear. And therefore anything that would remove fear from our heart, and there is really one thing that removes fear from our heart, and that is love being perfected in us. So this purging of fear has a hugely beneficial impact upon my relationship. So we were talking about different boundary violations. One would be where I allow somebody else over into my area of responsibility. We discussed several different fears that might motivate me to do that. One of the fears was a fear of failure. Maybe I need somebody to be dictating to me, controlling me, managing me, because I couldn't do it by myself. I love this promise from Philippians 4 and verse 13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Sometimes we've interpreted that to mean like maybe I can be an astronaut and I can do it through Christ, or whatever it might be. But really what this is talking about is I can fulfill my area of responsibility, everything that falls within my property lines. I can do anything and everything that is necessary in those areas of spiritual responsibility. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. So now that was one type of boundary violation. Another one would be the first one was allowing somebody else to trespass into my area of responsibility. The second one is if I was to try to trespass into another person's area of responsibility. This is very easy to do. We're surrounded by people, and it's just very common for people to not be fulfilling what they ought to be doing. They might be doing things they shouldn't be doing, and some of their actions or inactions may be affecting us. We're concerned about it. It's having an impact on our lives. We want it to work better. We might be very well intentioned in wanting to change or control what somebody else is doing. It might be for their own benefit also. But whatever and it's certainly, and I want to affirm this, it is right and necessary that we would have a gentle, godly, loving influence in other people's lives. We're allowed, particularly as we learn to do it in a loving way, we're allowed to communicate with other people. There's nothing wrong with that. But there's a difference between loving influence and manipulation or control or overtly trying to manage somebody else. To tell you the truth, we have our hands full with managing our own area of responsibility, our own plot of land, and we really need to let other people manage their plot of land. And so the thing that would motivate me, if I was to do it, the thing that would motivate me to want to control or manipulate somebody else would be fear. So there's that fear motivation again. It would be that they're not doing it right, and their issues are affecting me, and I'm going to be hurt. And if I don't make them do what they need to do or make them stop what they shouldn't be doing, then I'm going to be suffering the consequences, and it's going to hurt me. And this would be a very, very common thought pattern. I'm sure we've all thought this way at various times, probably many, many different times. But it's not a godly motivation. It's a fear motivation. The more I have confidence in God, the more that I am completely assured of the fact that if all I do is attend to my own business, attend to my own area of responsibility, and do it with God's help and do it well, then His promise to me is that life will go well for me. I will have a good life. I will be blessed. Again, the 23rd Psalm, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not lack. He prepares a table before me in the presence of my enemies. My cup runs over. As I'm confident of that, then my need to try to manage other people becomes less and less. In fact, I come to realize, although other people's actions may impact me to a certain degree, they really have no influence at all in determining how things ultimately turn out for me. That is 100% over onto me. Now, sometimes we don't like that responsibility. We don't want it to be all us. But if we had a choice at the beginning of life, if we had a choice, A or B, we stand before God, we got to make the choice that I want my life to be a consequence of my own actions, or perhaps choice B would be, I want my life to be the consequence of other people's choices. Other people can ruin me by their inattention, their bad actions, their failure to properly attend to matters. Which one would you choose? Would you choose that it would be all your responsibility, or would you choose that it be other people's responsibility? I'm sure that all of us, or most all of us, would not want to put that very, very important factor into other people's hands. and so the good news is God has put it into our hands, and so we simply need to accept that responsibility, and we need to allow for the fact that other people must accept their own responsibilities as well. It's not for me to try to manage them. And again, the thing that would motivate me to want to overstep my boundary, to become improperly involved in somebody else's life, trying to, again, direct, control, manipulate, whatever word we would use, that is a fear motivation on my part. And now a third type of boundary violation would be if I was to blame others or to make excuses for shortfalls in my area of responsibility, to try to cast that responsibility for me over onto them. And this has just been, again, that's a fear motivation. Maybe I think that admitting wrong will, humiliate me or disgrace me. Again, I might be afraid that I can't meet my responsibilities, so I've got to try to make it somebody else's fault. But this has been happening since the beginning of the human race. We all know this. Allow me to say it again. Genesis 3:12, Adam said, after he had sinned, his responsibility, he said, the woman whom you gave to be with me, she gave me of the tree, and I ate. So in other words, it was the woman's fault and it was God's fault. But again, this is a fear motivation. So fear undermines the quality of our relationships in a variety of different ways. The way to deal with relationships